welcome to this first episode of Automation World's Technology Matters, where each week I'll be reviewing some of the more interesting topics we've recently covered to help you stay on top of what's happening in the world of industrial automation. Now, because we're posting dozens and dozens of pieces of content every month, we realize it can be difficult to keep up with all the information we're providing, especially with all that's going on in the world today with the COVID-19 pandemic and associated economic impacts. And though I won't be addressing everything we publish in these Technology Matters episodes, I'll focus on highlighting some of the more important and intriguing posts you might have otherwise missed. So let's get started. The first post I want to highlight is the feature article from our April issue, Cybersecurity Lessons from Safety. Now, you might think this is a strange connection we're trying to make here, or be wondering how cybersecurity and safety are even really connected. But the fact is that many industry experts have long been advocating for the alignment of cybersecurity and safety across industry. So this is not really a new idea, but one whose time may finally be arriving. Now, at the core of this connection are the decades of experience industry has with safety. As Luis Duran of ABB stated in the article, there are decades of experience in applying safety standards and best practices, and that experience can be beneficial for establishing new best practices for dealing with a different problem, like cybersecurity. Now, these connections between safety and cybersecurity come via the fact that at their cores, both are aimed at managing risks that never completely go away. Now, providing a look at how companies are taking steps now to connect these two disciplines, Dr. Alexander Horch of the HIMA group has noticed what he calls a welcome trend. He says companies in the process industries are increasingly recognizing the importance of safety and security standards for the safety and economic viability of their plants, and are focusing on specific standards such as IEC 61508 and 61511 for safety and IEC 62443 for cybersecurity. Now, Horch believes that complying with such standards is as important to defending against cyber attacks as it has been for improving safety. He notes that following such standards has worked brilliantly for 50 years for safety. However, as important as following standards is, when it comes to cybersecurity, he feels that standards, though necessary, aren't sufficient on their own. Since the threat is constantly changing, he says security must also constantly be checked, not only for function, but for effectiveness. Now, this feature on cybersecurity and safety packs a lot of industry commentary about the connections between the two disciplines, as well as details about how you can start connecting the two for your own operations. Now, the next post I want to bring your attention to is one titled Advice on IoT Sensor Selection. Now, this post was developed from many of the key points highlighted in my recent interview with Alan Hotovy of Schneider Electric's Telemechanique Sensors for an episode in our podcast series, Automation World Get Your Questions Answered, which you can access, of course, on the Automation World site using the URL shown or via your favorite podcast provider. Now, in this interview with Alan, we covered a number of topics ranging from the difference between IoT sensors and traditional sensors, to making the choice between wired and wireless sensor versions, and the additional capabilities that embedded intelligence brings to IoT sensors. Now, the application of embedded intelligence in IoT sensors provides users with some interesting new capabilities, as Alan pointed out. Embedded intelligence in IoT sensors enables users to perform an array of additional tasks, ranging from the mechanical to the analytical. And you can use the embedded intelligence on an IoT sensor to do mechanical things like creating a limit switch for pressure, or to send a signal out when the pressure gets to 60 psi to turn the pump off, or send another signal out when the pressure drops to 40 psi. And on the analytical side, you can use IoT-enabled sensors to examine the efficiency and current draw during a process, or do a filtered root mean square conversion of vibration data to examine varying conditions. So check out this podcast for all the details we discussed, but if you just want to see more of the highlights, you can feel free to visit this article online. Now, the last post I wanted to point out for this Technology Matters episode is the article titled, Is Our Approach to Artificial Intelligence Wrong? Now, on my last business trip before COVID-19 disrupted all of our travel plans to numerous events, I attended the TechCrunch Sessions Robotics and AI event at UC Berkeley. Now, what captured my attention in this session with computer science professor Stuart Russell wasn't that it pondered the question about how much of a threat AI could pose to the human race. I mean, after all, concern about that has long been widespread. What got my attention is that Professor Russell wasn't just hand-wringing over this issue, but he was pointing out specific problems with AI and how we could fix them. For instance, Professor Russell said the standard model of AI is one we borrowed from the idea of machine intelligence in the 1940s and 50s. The idea here is that AI is a rational agent created to achieve an objective, but machines don't have objectives, so we have to plug them in. And the problem here is that we, as humans, aren't very good about setting objectives completely to avoid problems. So, to counteract the negative potential of AI, Professor Russell said we have to design AI applications to constantly be beholden to humans. He said a machine can't be allowed to assume it has the complete objective. It has to know that it doesn't know the whole objective. The machine has to be obligated to optimize human preferences so that as the machine solves problems, the better the result will be for humans, not worse. He also pointed out that we should be more aware of all the situations where we don't need general purpose intelligence, like all those applications out there we're already outfitting with AI that probably don't need that level of intelligence. Now, Professor Russell reminded the audience that Alan Turing was unequivocal in his assessment that if it ever comes to a battle between humans and AI, humans will lose. So now is the time to more intelligently reassess our approach to AI and future-proof it against potential human destruction. I hope you enjoyed this Technology Matters episode and that you'll check out these and other posts at automationworld.com. And as you probably noticed, the URLs in this video are not live links to the articles on our site. And that's because the Automation World TV site is still relatively new, and we haven't yet met YouTube's bar for subscriptions and hours of videos watched to become a full-fledged partner with live links to our home site. So, if you're watching this and haven't yet subscribed to our channel, please do so by clicking on the AWTV logo on the bottom right-hand side of your screen and tell your coworkers to please do the same. That way we'll be able to add more interactive features to our content here on the Automation World TV channel. And keep checking back in with us here as we'll be posting new videos regularly. So, see you soon with the next installment of Automation World's Technology Matters.